This is the Mahindra BE 6E. It's a new coupe SUV, Mahindra's first born electric. It's one of two cars. We'll get you the XEV 9E soon enough. But it's about 4.3 meters long, which makes it about the size of a Creta or even a Grand Vitara. So roughly that's what the size is like. And we'll tell you more about it as we keep going along. First of all, you have this very aggressive, very new face. To be honest, a lot of it from the concept form hasn't changed. For example, you get these deep set LED lights. Now they have something called a booster technology, which gives you something over a high beam, which in our first drive we'll explain further. You have this very sharp DRL line to it, and there's a lot of sharp sculpting. As you can see, it's very sharply sculpted. Even this paint, it might look white, but it has a nice finish to it. You have a completely open sort of element here. This being an EV, a born electric platform, of course aero efficiency is a highlight here. And I must say that given the mass of this car, this big face, a lot of these black elements, they really do work well, especially this badging with the QR code. It gives it a very modern touch. And then of course, as is current theme, this also lights up. Now both the cars, the BE 6E and the XEV 9E, are based dimensionally on the same Inglopa architecture. So you get 20-inch wheels in both. You have a new independent suspension kind of arrangement in the front. Now this is fully electrified, so there is a Frunk which I'll show you later once I get inside the car. It's about 150 liters. Now Mahindra has been able to do it by moving the suspension inboard. That's also improved the turning radius. Now the wheelbase for both the cars is about 2.77 meters, and you have about 202 mm of ground clearance. Now the battery sits slightly higher up at 222 mm, but like I mentioned, you get some really smart looking 20-inch wheels. You have that very sharp sculpting along here. Now these flush door handles, you've seen it in the XUV, it's here back again. And again, that contrast, that really dark contrasting here with these ridges here, I mean, they do give it a very different look. Again, making this quite large SUV look even more potent in my opinion. Now you get a hidden door handle here and more wheels here. Now the rear suspension is a 5-point independent setup, again very new. Now you have some form of semi-active damping, which is that MTCVL setup that Mahindra uses in its other cars. That's made its appearance here too. Now there are some really neat cool touches here as well. Now you have something like Tesla's Sentry mode. Now these cameras here, for the 360-degree camera with your phone, you can actually see what's happening around the car. And you have an NFC kind of key here. You don't have a button as such, an NFC key. Now as you can see, the rear again is very sharp, very stylish, and while this is a bulky car in terms of how high this deck lid is, it looks compact, it looks very well designed in my opinion. And you notice these two elements here, again that aero sort of fastback look, this really raked roofline. And I must say this lighting element is also very well detailed. Now you can't see it here, but you have indicators and some graphics in here which work really well. This sculpting again sort of merges very well with it. You have that single rear light here, and again this diffuser element, which I must say looks really cool in a what is a mainstream car. Now you get a powered tailgate, of course the new Mahindra branding. I'll just show that to you again. Now I don't know the exact boot figures for the 6E. The XEV 9E has about 650 liters, so I'm assuming this is about 400-ish. But here's the good part, even though the motor is placed at the rear, you still get a spare wheel. It's not the full-size one, but it's there. And you also get a 60-40 split function. Now here's a neat touch, just so that you know that the car's boot is open and you have those indicators here, which is neat. Now I promised you I'll show you the Frunk. It's a bit difficult to access, to be honest. Yeah, but it's about 150 liters. Now as you can see, this is what the rear is like. There's some really smart touches. I must say that you have this pull type door handle from a race car thing. Now Mahindra is going with the whole racy aircraft type vibe, that very typical aggressive vibe. And that's how the door shuts. It shuts with a nice thud. Yeah, the window is not very large in my opinion, and you do feel like you're in a cozy spot with the dark trim. But I must say the quality is really quite surprising, especially at first glance. We'll need more time with it, but this has a nice texture to it. It's not hard. There's soft materials here and some really hefty window switches. Now you have that 16-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, which is a good addition. Now this is the kind of legroom I have now. That seat is, to be honest, pushed slightly behind, so maybe you can free up a bit more. But yeah, if you are a tall person sitting behind a tall person, yeah, this is about the kind of headroom you have. It's not great, but It's at par, I would say, with any 4.3 meter, large 4.3 meter car. Yes, headroom will be an issue though. I'm at 5'6", I have only this much left. So with this big sunroof, headroom, yes, will be an issue with the coupe roofline. Now, speaking of the sunroof, you have this pattern here. Now, Mahindra says you can change it with different colors. It's not a full opening sunroof, it's a panoramic setup. But yeah, again, it's something new, something different. Now, this screen is slightly different. I think it's an accessory. You can't expect it as standard equipment, but again, it's there. Now, coming back to the seats, they are quite good. I mean, considering this is based on an EV specific architecture, you do notice that the floor is flat, but underthigh support, yes, could have been better, but it's also not very bad. Yes, I do find that I'm sitting slightly knees up, not very much, but given the contouring of the seat, it's not very uncomfortable. It's actually decently comfortable. Now, the same with the back rest. It's got this really nice contouring to it. It's very different from what we've expected or seen from Mahindra. It's very sporty, somewhat European, I must say. And you have this center armrest. Now again, this fabric upholstery is different. It's not the usual leatherette, and I really quite like it. And another neat touch going with that whole smart aircraft theme is these vents. Now, it doesn't look like it, but this is actually the vent, which is really quite neat. And you have a small arrangement here and the lights here. Now you know that this is a completely different take on a Mahindra. When you look at the key, it's completely different from what you've seen from Mahindra, and very different and very unique. It also feels quite nice to hold. It's got that textured, almost organic carbon-like finish, just like what you have here, which is really quite nice. And then just look at this interior. I mean, again, it's very different from what you've expected or seen in a Mahindra before. It's very modern. It again has that cockpit kind of feel to it, that fighter jet, that sporty, that aggressive theme that Mahindra is going with the rest of this car. That's all here. So yeah, we'll start with the steering. There's a lot to unpack here, of course. And yeah, you have this full yoke, if you will, this squircle steering wheel, again with the lit up center logo. And the steering itself, it has variable ratios. You see this in luxury cars, but it's here as well, which is really quite nice. And then you have buttons to control the regen. You have something for one pedal driving, I'm assuming. And you have what looks like a boost mode. You have this very different gear selector, again going with that thrustered and aircraft theme, if you will, that power switch. And again, it has a nice feel to it. And then of course you have these screens. Now I have to get into these screens. Now they're a completely new take on screens. Now they're two 10.5-inch screens, but they now run a Snapdragon processor, and as you can see, it's really quite slick and smooth. This is the kind of stuff that you have here. You have, of course, 360-degree cameras. I must say that the camera looks at first glance fairly bright and easy to use, and just generally the kind of responses are nice. You have ambient lighting that you can choose. Like I said, it works with the drive modes. You have something to do with performance. We'll get into that later. And you have drive assist functions. You have a lot of connected features, which I must get into. You have video apps, audio apps, connectivity apps. You even have Instagram inside, which is something very different. I haven't seen in a car before. Some games. And yeah, this works with that 16-speaker Harman Kardon audio system. Now, among other features, you do get ventilated seats. You get power adjustment and memory function for both the seats. Now, again, I must get into the materials that are on offer. You have the textured finish here. You have soft materials here. Even here, the bit that you see here is soft. That seamless finish that you have in many modern cars, that's been replicated here. There are two wireless chargers here, deep inside here. Again, only one cup holder. I don't understand why, but given that this is an EV architecture, there's a big space down below you. And you have a small cubby here. And you do get two Type-C charge ports. You can't really see it. But there are also some touch functions. For example, the start button is touch. But what you have here is something very different. These are again these toggle switches here. Now this is for the camera. This is for the self-parking. This is for the opening the boot. And yeah, again the lighting here. Now I must say even the roof lining feels quite good to touch. You have this toggle switch which controls the shortcuts for the car's functions and for the home button and so on, which is a straight lift, to be honest, from other Mahindras. Now there are 3 drive modes on offer: everyday, race, and a normal mode. And you also have some ambient modes. I think this one doesn't have it. That's in the XEV9e, which we'll get to. Now here are 2 other color options that you can get with the BE60. This very bright orange and that golden color. Now, in terms of the range, the BE60 does about 550 as per the WLTP cycle and 682 as per the MIDC. It can also go from 0 to 106.7 seconds, and it's priced at starting from 18.90 lakh. Now you can fast charge it from 10 to 80% in about 20 minutes with a 175 kilowatt charger, and it does the AC charging at 11 kilowatts. Now what do you think? Prices will be announced in January with deliveries beginning in February.